قد أفلح المؤمنون.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. Respected Muslim brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When we last left off, we discussed how Imam Husayn salamullahi alayhi had sent Muslim ibn Aqil to Kufa after receiving letters from the people of Kufa, and we went over his letter to the people of Kufa, and we also went over the story of Sulaiman ibn Razin, how he went to Basra to deliver Imam al-Husayn's letter, and how unfortunately Ibn Ziyad la'inahullah found him and found out about this, and so he killed him. He murdered him, and then Ibn Ziyad begins making his way from Basra to Al-Kufa. So today, before we get started, just a quick side point. So we are not going to go over the story of Muslim ibn Aqil. That will be done in a separate video, because I believe that when it comes to doing these biographies, it is much easier to focus in on one bio than to go off on tangents with others. So that's why we did separate videos for Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. We did separate videos for the companions of Aba Abdullah al-Husayn, salamullahi alayh. And so, inshallah, with that being said, this is not to say that the story of Muslim is not important. It is simply to help us keep the narrative concise. So with that being said, we're going to get back to Aba Abdullah salamullahi alayhi. When we left off, he was still in Mecca. So there are a few other things we need to go over about Aba Abdullah al-Husayn's time in Mecca before we begin the story of him making his way to Iraq. So Ibn Sa'd records in Kitab al-Tabaqat in volume 6 on page 427. He records this incident. He records that Yazid ibn Muawiyah la'inahullah wrote Ibn Abbas telling him that he knows about al-Husayn's departure from the city of Medina, right? Or his departure to the city of Mecca. So he had left Medina and made his way to Mecca. So he believed that individuals from the eastern provinces had approached al-Husayn and had offered him the Khilafah. So Yazid warned Ibn Abbas that some of them were men of influence, and if he accepted their offers, it would lead to trouble. He urged Ibn Abbas to convince al-Husayn to abandon his goal of heading to Iraq, and he wrote the following lines to him and those in Mecca and Medina from Quraysh. O traveler heading to Tayyibah, carrying with you a warning as you pass through its valleys so deep. Inform the Quraysh of my distance from this shrine, a gap between me and Husayn, God and mercy abide. I stand by the Ka'ba's ruins and declare my pledge to Allah, and commitments are clear. I glorified your people with your mother, a noble mare, a generous mother's care. She whose excellence none can surpass, the Prophet's daughter, the best known to last. Her virtue is yours, and others can't compare. From your people and her virtues their share. I know or surmise as an informed soul. Sometimes guesses align and make a whole. Leave behind what you claim as proof. Death will cause your tribes to regroup. O our people, don't ignite the war's flame. Hold to peace, let its light sustain. Wars deluded those who came before. Generations witnessed civilization's gore. Treat your people justly, don't self-destruct. A strong stance needs no drastic abrupt. So what we see here, and I want to highlight this for a second, if you will allow me. Yazid ibn Muawiyah la'inahullah has a reputation, a certain historical reputation. So his reputation is that of, obviously he's a politician. He's someone who is very politically cunning. He is someone who is very brutal and very ruthless when it came to getting what he wants. But there is also something that many of the historians will point out when going over the biography of Yazid. And you can see this in Kitab Sir A'lam al-Nubala, for example, is that Yazid was a sha'ir. Yazid was a poet. And all those years spent with his uncles of Bani Kalb in the Syrian desert, he had a knack for poetry. To Tayyibah, carrying with you a warning as you pass through its valleys so deep. Inform the Quraysh of my distance from this shrine, a gap between me and Husayn, God and mercy abide. I stand by the Ka'ba's ruins and declare my pledge to Allah, and commitments are clear. I glorified your people with your mother, a noble mare, a generous mother's care. She whose excellence none can surpass, the Prophet's daughter, the best known to last. Her virtue is yours, and others can't compare. From your people and her virtues their share. I know or surmise as an informed soul. Sometimes guesses align and make a whole. He'll leave behind what you claim as proof. Death will cause your tribes to regroup. O our people, don't ignite the war's flame. Hold to peace, let its light sustain. Wars deluded those who came before. Generations witnessed civilization's gore. Treat your people justly, don't self-destruct. A strong stance needs no drastic abrupt. So what we see here, and I want to highlight this for a second, if you will allow me. Yazid ibn Muawiyah la'inahullah has a reputation, a certain historical reputation. So his reputation is that of, obviously he's a politician. He's someone who is very politically cunning. He is someone who is very brutal and very ruthless when it came to getting what he wants. But there is also something that many of the historians will point out when going over the biography of Yazid. And you can see this in Kitab Sir A'lam al-Nubala, for example, is that Yazid was a sha'ir. Yazid was a poet. And all those years spent with his uncles of Bani Kalb in the Syrian desert, he had a knack for poetry. So here, in poetic form, he has written a letter to Ibn Abbas, essentially telling him, look, it is in your best interest and in your tribe's best interest to convince Husayn not to go to Iraq, not to try to rebel against me, not to try to oppose me. And so he's warning him, he's like, it is in your best interest to heed my warning and to keep Husayn from doing what he wants to do and to keep him in Hijaz. And so Ibn Abbas replied to Yazid, I hope Husayn's departure is not for you a cause for disdain. I won't withhold advice in matters that bring unity and diminish flames. So Ibn Abbas here is saying that, I understand your threat, and my objective here is to make sure that this does not become a problem. So, anyway, we now see that, moving on, that al-Tabari, al-Dainawari, al-Baladri, and al-Tabari all report that that Uqba ibn Sam'an, and again, we went over Uqba ibn Sam'an and why his reports are so important last time. They report with their chain, especially Tabari, with his chain to Uqba ibn Sam'an, he reports the following. And this can be found in Tarikh al-Tabari, volume 19, page 66 to 68. Uqba ibn Sam'an reports that when al-Husayn decided to go to Kufa, Abdullah ibn Abbas came to him and said, my cousin, people are spreading reports that you are going to Iraq. Explain to me what you are doing. So he replied, I have decided to set out on the next of 2 days, insha'Allah. So Ibn Abbas said to him, I ask Allah to protect you from that. Tell me, may Allah have mercy on you. Are you going to a people who have killed their governor, taken control of their land, and driven out their enemy? If they have done that, then go to them. But if they have only asked you to come to them while their governor is in control of them and his tax collectors are still taxing their land, then they are only asking you to come to war and fighting. I cannot be sure that they are not tempting you and that they will not oppose and desert you. Indeed, they may gather to make war on you. They may become the most violent of people against you. And so al-Husayn alayhi salam replied to him, he responded, I will leave the choice to Allah and see what happens. And Ibn Abbas left. Then Ibn Zubayr came. And Ibn Zubayr came and spoke to Imam al-Husayn, and he said, I don't know why we have left things to these people and stood idly by. We are the sons of the Muhajirun. We should be the ones in control of this government rather than they. Tell me what you are intending to do. So al-Husayn alayhi salam says to Ibn Zubayr, by Allah, I have reflected about going to al-Kufa. My Shia are there and the nobles of those people. My Shia there and the nobles of these people have written to me. I am leaving the choice to Allah. Ibn Zubayr said, if I had the same sort of followers as you there, I would not seek any other alternative than them. Then he feared that al-Husayn might suspect his motive, so he added, however, if you remain in the Hijaz, you could pursue this matter here without meeting any opposition, insha'Allah. He rose and left him, and al-Husayn alayhi salam said, nothing in the world would please him more than my leaving Hijaz for Iraq. He realizes that he has no share in this matter while I am present, for the people will never consider him an equal to me. Therefore, he would love for me to go away from here so that he can have a free hand. And I want to stop and do some analysis here. So Abdullah ibn Abbas, on the surface, his advice is quite sound. He tells Imam al-Husayn, Ya Aba Abdullah, before you go to Kufa, have them prove their loyalty. They have not overthrown their governor or his bureaucrats like the tax collectors. So why are you trusting in them? They need to do something to prove their loyalty to you. So on the surface, this is good advice. If al-Husayn's objective is to go and start a rebellion, this is fantastic advice. It makes perfect sense. Ibn Zubayr, however, we see that he is the polar opposite of Ibn Abbas. He is completely insincere. Ibn Zubayr is trying to get al-Husayn to leave Hijaz so that he can take over the situation. Because once al-Husayn leaves al-Hijaz, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, all of a sudden everyone is going to rally around him. And those of you who know history, you know that this is exactly what happened, is that Ibn Zubayr, after al-Husayn was martyred, that's how he began his uprising. But al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi is no fool. He sees right through this. He says, I know why he wants me to go to Iraq. It's because he has his own plans. He has his own agenda. So continuing on with Uqba ibn Sam'an's report, the evening or the next day, al-Husayn went to Ibn Abbas, and the latter said, Cousin, I invoke patience, but I do not have it. I fear your destruction and extirpation in this enterprise. The Iraqis are treacherous people, so don't go near them. Remain in this land, for you are the leader of the people of Hijaz. If the Iraqis want you as they claim, write to them, and they should drive out their enemies, and then you will come to them. If you insist on leaving, then go to Yemen. There are fortresses and gorges. It is a vast, distant land. Your father had Shia there. And I say, Alhamdulillah, Amir al-Muminoon had Shia in Yemen. He has always had Shia in Yemen, and even today he has Shia in Yemen. And you would be remote from the people. Then you could write to the people, send messengers to infiltrate, and urge the people to support you. I hope that in that way, what you want will come to you easily. So Ibn Abbas here is being very political. He's like, Husayn, if you want to have an uprising against Yazid, go to Yemen. Don't go to Iraq, go to Yemen and use the geography, the terrain of Yemen, and then send your spies and your messengers and really get this thing going. So al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi responded to him, Cousin, I know that you are an advisor who is anxious for me. However, I have reached my decision and I am determined to set out. And this is a very, very important part. We need to focus in here. Ibn Abbas pleaded, Then if you are going, do not go with your women folk and your children. For I fear that you will be killed just as Uthman was killed, while his women folk and children were watching. This line is very important to understanding Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, salamullahi alayhi. Because if al-Husayn was looking for power, why would he take his women and children with him? What is the point of taking his women and children with him? It does not make sense. If al-Husayn wants power, why go to Iraq? Why not go to Yemen? Why not stay in Hijaz, as Ibn Zubayr or Ibn Abbas are telling him? And so, in a bit, al-Husayn will make it clear what his objective is. Correct? Ibn Abbas, after he said this, he went on to say, you would thrill Ibn Zubayr by your leaving him alone in the Hijaz and your departure from it. For now, no one pays attention to him as you are here. But by Allah, other than whom there is no deity, I would catch hold of your hair and your forelock until the people had gathered around you and me, if I thought it would make you obey me. So Ibn Abbas is saying, if you leave us, if you go, you will leave us at the mercy of this monster Ibn Zubayr. And many of you know that later Ibn Abbas him and Muhammad al-Hanafiya had a major conflict with Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And Ibn Zubayr got so sick of them that he locked them in wooden cages and was getting ready to burn them alive. And later when Urwa ibn Zubayr was asked about this, he said, your brother wanted to burn Bani Hashim. He said, as-Siddiq before him wanted to do it. My brother was just following in the footsteps of his grandfather, as-Siddiq. When Bani Hashim wanted to create fitna after the death of Rasulullah by gathering in Fatima's house, as-Siddiq, he used fire and he threatened to burn their house. Now my brother was just doing the same thing. My brother was perfectly within his right to do what he did. So Ibn Abbas, the report of Uqba ibn Sam'an continues, Ibn Abbas left him and he passed by Abdullah ibn Zubayr and he said to him, may you be happy, Ibn Zubayr. Then he recited, what a fortunate lark in a flourishing country. Now the sky is free for you, so lay eggs and hatch them, and tap with your beak as you like. This poem, what it means is that Ibn Abbas is telling Ibn Zubayr, it's like, are you happy now? You're going to get what you want. Al-Husayn is going to Iraq. Correct? You are like a fortunate lark in a flourishing country. He's like, you are now a free bird. The sky is yours. You can lay eggs and hatch them, and you can tap whatever you want with your beak because the hawk has finally left the skies. Correct? In the end, Ibn Abbas could not convince Imam al-Husayn to change course, and he left al-Husayn's presence crying, "O Husayn, I lament Husayn for whoever hears." And this report is corroborated, or that specific part of Ibn Abbas's comment. Al-Baladri summarized their conversation. He did not go over it in as much detail as Tabari did. However, we read on page 374, this is in volume 3 of Ansab al-Ashraf, it says that when Ibn Abbas left al-Husayn, he has this line that's not in Tabari. وروي أن ابن عباس خرج من عند حسين وهو يقول وحسينا أنعي حسينا لمن سمع. So he says, I lament Husayn because I believe that he is going to get killed. Now there is another report, a very important report that answers this question. It's like, Ya Aba Abdullah, why are you going to Iraq? Like everyone is telling you, stay in Hijaz, go to Yemen, send messengers, send spies, leave your women and children. Everyone is giving you this political advice, but he's insisting, no, I have to go to Iraq. I'm going to Iraq. Allah wants me to go to Iraq. So we see the following. In Kitab Musannaf ibn Abi Shaybah, in volume 21, page 283, hadith 40,147, as well as Kitab al-Mu'jab al-Kabir by al-Tabarani, in volume 2, page 242, hadith number 2,790. And this was authenticated by al-Haythami in Majma' al-Zawaid, volume 9, page 223, hadith 15,134. And this is a very, very important report. Extremely important. Because it solves a major shubha that some of the mukhalifin bring up. Many of the mukhalifin, they tell you, and this is something also Orientalists do, they tell you that al-Husayn salamullahi alayh was someone who wanted to be good at politics, but he wasn't. He wanted to be Khalifa, he wanted to start a rebellion, but he was a fool. Wal-'iyadhu billah. He believed that the Iraqis would support him, but they didn't. He should have stayed home. He should have listened to Abdullah ibn Umar. He should have listened to Abdullah ibn Abbas. Al-Husayn, we feel sorry for him because he is the Prophet's grandson, but at the end of the day, he made bad decisions. So to respond to this nonsense, we say, look at the words of Abdullah ibn Abbas. In Al-Mu'jam al-Kabir, he reports with his chain to Tawus, the student of Ibn Abbas. He says, I heard Ibn Abbas say, Al-Husayn consulted me about his traveling to Iraq. And I said, if it wasn't for the sake of the people, I would have held you by the neck or by your hair and not let you go. And this is what we saw in the report of Uqba ibn Sam'an. So Al-Husayn replied, I prefer to be killed in the land of such and such rather than letting the sanctity of this place be violated. Ibn Abbas then said, and that is why I was pleased with his decision. So Ibn Abbas is telling Al-Husayn, he's like, I don't want to let you go. I don't want you to go to Iraq because I know those people are going to betray you. I know those people are going to hurt you. So Imam al-Husayn, what does he say? He doesn't say, no, Ibn Abbas, you're wrong. I disagree. I do trust in the Kufans and this rebellion is going to go well. You don't know what you're talking about. Imam al-Husayn gives him a very simple and a very heartbreaking reply. He says, I would rather be killed in such and such a land than to violate the sanctity of the Haram. What does that mean? It means I know Bani Umayyah, these people are godless heathens. They're not really Muslims. If I stay in Mecca, they will kill me in Mecca. If I stay in Medina, they will kill me in Medina. If I go to Yemen, those people will destroy Mecca and Medina to reach me. If I'm going to fight these people, if these people want my bay'ah and I refuse to give it to them, and they're going to kill me for it, then I would rather fight them someplace where I can keep innocent lives from being harmed. Or I can keep the sanctuary of Mecca, al-Masjid al-Haram, and the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam safe from destruction. And subhanallah, Imam al-Husayn's words were true. These are not the words of someone who did not know what he was doing. These are the words of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Because after al-Husayn died, Yazid's army did attack Medina in Waqa'at al-Harra. And then they did attack Mecca. And they fired catapults, they fired stones and fireballs at the Kaaba. And then they did it again under Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Imam al-Husayn is no Ibn Zubayr. He's not willing to use the sanctuaries to push his agenda. He's not willing to put innocent people in harm's way in order to try to claim the Khilafah. Imam al-Husayn knows that at the end of the day, I am a shaheed. And we'll go over this in some other reports, inshallah, when we talk about al-Husayn in Karbala. But this shows you that al-Husayn did not commit suicide, as some foolish people have said. Al-Husayn knows that no matter what he does, they're going to kill him. But he simply chose the battlefield. He chose the place to make his last stand. And the place he chose was Iraq. Now let us go over al-Husayn alayhi salam and his departure from Mecca. Al-Baladhuri, al-Daynawari, and al-Tabari all reported on the authority of Uqba ibn Sam'an, and again we will be quoting Tabari's report. They report the following incident when Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayhi was leaving Mecca. And this is found in Tarikh al-Tabari, volume 19, page 69 to 70. They say that when, and this is again on the authority of Uqba ibn Sam'an, when al-Husayn left Mecca, the messengers of Amr ibn Sa'id ibn al-As met him. Amr ibn Sa'id ibn al-As was the governor of Mecca. Yahya ibn Sa'id ibn al-As was in charge of them. So Amr ibn Sa'id had put his brother in charge of these messengers, of these like sentinels. So he sent them after al-Husayn when he was leaving Mecca. They ordered him to come back from where he was going. They said, we're not going to let you go to Iraq. We have orders from the governor to keep you here. But he refused and continued his journey. The two groups came to blows. So the governor's men tried to stop al-Husayn. They tried to physically stop them. But they hit each one another with whips. However, al-Husayn and his followers resisted fiercely. Al-Husayn continued his journey and they called out to him, Husayn, do you not fear Allah lest you leave the unified people, the Jama'ah, and split this community, the Ummah? In his answer, al-Husayn responded with an ayah of the Quran, my deeds are mine and your deeds are yours. You are not accountable for my actions, nor am I accountable for yours. And this is a reference to the Quran. This is Surah Yunus, ayah 41. Correct? The ayah says, وَإِن كَذَّبُوكَ فَقُلْ لِي عَمَلِي وَلَكُمْ عَمَلُكُمْ أَنْتُمْ بَرِيئُونَ مِمَّا أَعْمَلُ وَأَنَا بَرِيءٌ مِمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. And so al-Husayn alayhi salam continues. So now he's left Mecca and he is making his way to Iraq. Al-Daynawari, al-Baladhuri, and al-Tabari also report that al-Husayn continued until he passed by an area, I believe it's pronounced Tan'im. There he met a camel train that had come from Yemen. Bahir ibn Raysan al-Himyari, who was Yazid's governor of Yemen, had sent to Yazid. By the way, this report can be found, we are quoting from Tarikh al-Tabari, volume 19, page 70. He reports that when Imam al-Husayn left, he encountered this baggage train, correct? He met a camel train that had come from Yemen. It had been sent by Bahir ibn Raysan al-Himyari, who was Yazid ibn Muawiyah's governor of Yemen. He had sent it to Yazid. So the governor of Yemen had sent this camel train to Yazid from Yemen. So the camel train was carrying turmeric and cloth to Yazid. Al-Husayn took possession of the goods and carried them off. He said to the camel owners, I will not force you, but whoever wants to come with us to Iraq, we will pay his hire and enjoy his company. Whoever wants to leave us at any place that we are in, we will pay his hire for the distance he has traveled. Those of them who had left their accounts settled and were had their accounts settled and were paid their due. However, al-Husayn paid the hire of those of them who went with him and gave them clothes. We see here that Imam al-Husayn intercepted, just like he had done with Muawiyah and Marwan. He saw that Yazid had some goods, he took them, he said, these are mine now. And he told the people driving the camels, if you men would like to accompany to Iraq, I will pay you for your services. Al-Tabari further reports, and this report comes from Al-Imam Zainul Abidin, salamullah alayh, from our master Ali ibn al-Husayn, salamullah alayh. And this can be found Tarikh al-Tabari in volume 19, page 72 to 74. He narrates with his chain to Imam al-Sajjad. He says, when we left Mecca, Abdullah ibn Ja'far ibn Abi Talib sent a letter to al-Husayn with his two sons, Aoun and Muhammad. So Aoun and Muhammad, as many of you know, they later become shuhada. This is the story of how they joined their uncle, Abu Abdullah. So in his letter, Abdullah ibn Ja'far said the following, I ask you by Allah to return when you read my letter, for I am very concerned that the direction in which you are heading will have within it your destruction and the extirpation of your house. If you are destroyed by today, the light of the earth will have been extinguished. For you are the standard for those who are rightly guided and the hope of the believers. Do not hurry on your journey as I am following this letter. Peace be with you. So Abdullah ibn Ja'far is essentially telling Imam al-Husayn, he's like, wait, please do not go to Iraq. Please just give me some time. Let me try to do something. I do not want you to get to be killed. Because if you are killed, we lose our Imam. So Abdullah ibn Ja'far then went to Amr ibn Sa'id ibn al-As, who again was the governor of Mecca, and spoke to him saying, write a letter to Husayn in which you offer him a guarantee of safe conduct. You give him aman, promise to favor him with kindness and generosity. Show trust to him in your letter. Ask him to return, and perhaps he will be reassured by that. So Amr ibn Sa'id told him to write whatever he wanted, and then to bring it to him so that he could put the seal on it. So Abdullah ibn Ja'far is essentially trying to convince al-Husayn, you can stay in Hijaz. I'll make sure it's safe for you here. But Imam al-Husayn, as we know, he knows that Bani Umayyah are liars. He knows that they cannot be trusted. So Abdullah ibn Ja'far wrote the letter, and he took it to Amr ibn Sa'id, and Amr ibn Sa'id stamped it and sent it with his brother Yahya ibn Sa'id. It is more likely that, and he said, it is more likely that al-Husayn's mind will be reassured by him and that he will realize this is a serious endeavor on your part. So he did so. So Yahya ibn Sa'id ibn al-As and Abdullah ibn Ja'far, Yahya ibn Sa'id, as we said, was he's the brother of the governor, and Abdullah ibn Ja'far is Imam al-Husayn's cousin. They went after al-Husayn, salamullahi alayh. They both left him after Yahya had read him the letter. Later, they reported that they had read him the letter and that they strove to persuade him. One of the excuses that he gave them, or that he made to them, was that he had seen a vision in which he had seen Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, who confirmed that he had been ordered to do what he was doing, whether it was against him or in his favor. They asked him what that vision was, and he answered that he had not told anyone of it, and he would not tell anyone of it until he met his Lord. The letter of Amr ibn Sa'id to al-Husayn was as follows. In the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate, from Amr ibn Sa'id to the servant of Allah, the son of Ali, i.e. al-Imam al-Husayn. I ask Allah to make you turn aside what will cause your death and to lead you to what will bring you guidance. I learnt that your destination is Iraq. I seek refuge for you in Allah's dissension, for I fear that your destruction is imminent. I have sent Abdullah ibn Ja'far and Yahya ibn Sa'id to you. Come to me with them. You will have a guarantee of safe conduct from me, kindness, generosity, and good neighborly protection. Allah is my witness, my guarantor, my supervisor, and the trusted authority of that. Wassalamu alaikum. Al-Husayn wrote back, and this is according to his own son al-Imam al-Sajjad, salamullahi alayhi. One who calls men to Allah Jalla wa Ala and to righteous actions and confesses that he is one of the Muslims does not rebel against Allah and his apostle. You have invited me to accept a guarantee of safe conduct, kindness, and generosity. The best guarantee of safe conduct is Allah's. Allah will never give safe conduct on the day of resurrection to those who do not fear Him in this world. We ask Allah fearfully while in this world that His guarantee of safe conduct be given to us on the day of resurrection. If you intend kindness and generosity towards me by your letter, then may you be well rewarded in this world and in the next. And peace be with you. Wassalamu alaikum. And so there's a few things we want to dissect here. Number one, we see that Abdullah ibn Ja'far is trying to, in his view, he's trying to help Aba Abdullah. But Aba Abdullah, what does he say to them? He says to them, I saw a vision in which Rasulullah commanded me to do this. This is very problematic for the Mukhalifin, because we know from our books and their books, we have multiple reports that whoever sees Rasulullah in a dream, then he has seen Rasulullah. Because Shaitan, la'inahullah, cannot take on the form of Rasulullah. So if we see that al-Husayn is saying, Rasulullah is telling me to do this, we know that there can be no doubt about the righteousness of his mission. Therefore, this is very, very problematic for the Mukhalifin, because the Mukhalifin, what do they say? They say that, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Fulan, all told Husayn not to go. We say, why are so many of your heroes going against what Rasulullah told al-Husayn? Either that or al-Husayn is a kadhab, wal-'ayadhu billah. Unless you want to accuse al-Husayn of lying about his dream, then you need to do bara'ah of one group. We, alhamdulillah, our bara'ah is from those people who later would say, we have given the bay'ah to Yazid and it was a valid bay'ah, the likes of Abdullah ibn Umar. Says anyone who breaks his bay'ah with Yazid, we dissociate from him. Continuing on, there is another letter that we need to go over that al-Husayn wrote shortly after leaving Mecca. And this comes from Shaykhuna ibn Qawlaway in his book Kaml al-Ziyarat. He reports the following with his isnad. He says that Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayh, and this is narrated by Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. He says, when al-Husayn left, he wrote this letter to Bani Hashim, mainly to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. He said, in the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, from al-Husayn ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib salamullah alayh to Muhammad ibn Ali and those with him from Bani Hashim. He who catches up and joins me will be martyred, and whoever doesn't catch up and join me will not reach victory. Wassalam. These are very powerful words from Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayh. In Arabic, I wish to read it in Arabic because as we know, English is not as strong as a language when it comes to these things. The letter reads, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, min al-Husayn ibn Ali, ila Muhammad ibn Ali, wa min qibalihi min Bani Hashim. أما بعد فإن من لحق بي استشهد ومن لم يلحق بي لم يدرك الفتح والسلام. And of course we have to do a little bit of analysis here. First of all, al-Husayn salamullah alayh has no qualms with the fact that he is going to die, that he is a shaheed. He knows perfectly well where this is going. But then that other line, he says this to his brother and he says this to his clan. He says, whoever doesn't join me, if you don't join me, you won't be a shaheed. But whoever does not join me, لم يدرك الفتح. Al-Fath, what does that mean? Like al-Fath in Arabic, it means victory. It means conquest. Fath Mecca, for example, right? So, Nasrullahi wal-Fath. Help from Allah and victory. Victory from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam al-Husayn is saying, he says, this martyrdom that I am heading towards is the ultimate victory. Whoever joins me will attain martyrdom. But whoever doesn't will not, لم يوفق للفتح, we would say. He misses out on this great conquest. And we will see as we go over what happened at Karbala. Although, yes, it is a tragedy, we see that the men who stood by Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, some of them were former slaves. Some of them were Arabs. Some of them we see they were Uthmanis, they were enemies of the Ahlul Bayt until they became one of the Shia of Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayh. And we see that through defending Abu Abdullah, through that final stand, not only did they attain martyrdom, but they became heroes. Correct? They became victorious in dunya and akhirah. Lastly, we'll go over another character or another figure that Imam al-Husayn encountered on his way to Iraq, and that is al-Farazdaq. Ad-Daynawari, as well as al-Baladri and al-Tabari all report, and we'll be quoting it from Tabari in Tarikh al-Tabari, volume 19, page 70 to 71. This report here is very, very interesting. They narrate the following. When al-Husayn set off from Mecca, he encountered the famous poet al-Farazdaq. Abu Mikhnaf reports with his chains to Abdullah ibn Sulaym and al-Madri. So these are two people that are reporting this story. We came to As-Sifah and we met al-Farazdaq ibn Ghalib, the poet. He was standing in front of al-Husayn and saying to him, may Allah grant you your request and fulfill your hopes in what you want. So al-Husayn asked him, tell us the news of the people you have left behind you. Al-Farazdaq answered, you have asked one who knows. The hearts of the people are with you, but their swords are with Bani Umayyah. The decision will come from heaven, and Allah will do what He wishes. Al-Husayn replied, true. The decision is Allah's, and Allah will do what He wishes. Every day our Lord exercises power in every matter. This is a reference to the Quran. If fate sends down what we like, we praise Allah for His blessings. He is the one from whom help should be sought in order to give thanks to Him. However, although fate may frustrate their hopes, those whose intention is the truth, and those whose hearts are pious are not aggressors. Then al-Husayn moved his mount away and bid al-Farazdaq farewell, and the two parted ways. At-Tabari also reported with his chain to al-Farazdaq's son. I believe this report is corroborated in Ansab al-Ashraf as well. He says the following. He reports that al-Husayn, from al-Farazdaq's son, he says, I made the pilgrimage with my mother. Al-Farazdaq's son is narrating from his father. I made the pilgrimage with my mother, and I was driving her camel when I entered the sanctuary, the Haram, during the days of the pilgrimage. That was in the year 60 after Hijrah. I met al-Husayn ibn Ali leaving Mecca accompanied by his men with swords and shields. I asked whose caravan this was, and I was told that it was al-Husayn ibn Ali's. So I went up to him and said, "May my mother and father be your sacrifice. Son of the Apostle of Allah, what is making you hurry away from the pilgrimage?" He replied, "If I do not hurry away, I would be apprehended." So he's telling him, if I stay here, these people will apprehend me, they will kill me. Then he asked me who I was, and I told him I was a man from Iraq. By Allah, he did not question me further about that, but he was satisfied with that answer. He asked, "Tell me about the people you have left behind you. Tell me about the Iraqis." I answered, "Their hearts are with you, but their swords are with Bani Umayyah. The decision is in the hands of Allah." He replied to me that that was true. Then I asked him about matters concerning vows and pilgrimage rites. We began to ask questions about fiqh, about Hajj, and he told me about them. His voice was thick with pleurisy that he had contracted in Iraq. And this is very strange. This line here, the editor, translator of Tarikh al-Tabari, Howard, he notes, he says, this is very strange. This reference must be referring to al-Farazdaq. So we don't know if it's like al-Farazdaq's son is saying that my father was sick at that time when this story happened, but it cannot be al-Husayn because al-Husayn is not coming from Iraq. He says, I went on, and there was a large, well-equipped tent pitched in the sanctuary. I went to it, and there was Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. Abdullah ibn Amr, we talked about him before, and his relationship with Imam al-Husayn. He questioned me, and I told him about meeting al-Husayn ibn Ali. He said to me, "Woe on you, why don't you follow him? By Allah, he will be victorious, and no weapon will affect him or his followers." And I want to stop here and note something about this. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As was very famous for something, is that when he went to Egypt, he began to read the books of Ahlul Kitab. He was very, very big into the books of Ahlul Kitab, and it is said that he had knowledge of the future. He had knowledge of the future, and this is from his encounter with these Egyptian Kitabi scholars. So here, Abdullah ibn Amr, for the context for those of you who did not know about this, is what? How does he know this? He's basically saying, I know the future, al-Husayn, there's some great prophecy that will be fulfilled through him, that his followers will be unaffected by weapons, he's going to be victorious. So Al-Farazdaq continues, by Allah, then I was anxious to follow him, and his words went deep into my heart. But I remembered the prophets and how they were killed, and that stopped me from following them. So I went to my people at Usman. By Allah, I was with them when a camel train that had brought provisions from Kufa approached. When I heard them, I went after them, and I shouted at them, and I shouted to them what happened to al-Husayn ibn Ali, and they told me that he had been killed. Then I went back cursing Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. The people at that time had all been like him, mentioning that thing and waiting for its fulfillment both day and night. Abdullah ibn Amr had been saying, neither tree nor palm nor child will grow before it is announced, meaning the victory of al-Husayn. So Al-Farazdaq says, I asked him, what stops you from selling the Wahd? Wahd was a piece of land that Abdullah ibn Amr owned. So Al-Farazdaq is basically mocking him. He's like, subhanAllah, you were telling us that al-Husayn was going to win and that I should go with him. Why didn't you sell your land and then go with him? So Abdullah ibn Amr became upset. He said, may Allah curse so-and-so, meaning Muawiyah and you. And the reason why he's cursing him and Muawiyah is because Muawiyah had tried to buy this land from him many years ago, but he had refused. I answered, no, rather may Allah curse you. He increased his cursing of me, and none of his coterie was around him, so I was spared their evil, and I left without his recognizing me. So this report, the reason why we quoted this report is to show you, Al-Farazdaq, some people know him, you know him perhaps from the story of Imam al-Sajjad, that poem that he read about him. But this is a very interesting report because it shows that he encountered at Imam al-Husayn, salamullahi alayhi, and he did not join Imam al-Husayn, salamullahi alayhi. He simply warned al-Husayn that the people of Iraq are not sincere. But with that being said, we will bring this part to a close and we will pick up next time with Imam al-Husayn making his way to Iraq and the events that transpired before the beginning of the battle of Karbala. With that being said, we will end with salawat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we'll catch you all next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.